Hello, everybody. In Chapter 8, we're going to be talking about structuring organizations for today's challenges. In this chapter, we're going to be talking about organizing for success, the changing organization, decisions to make in structuring organizations, organizational models, managing the interactions among firms, and adapting to change. When it comes to building an organization from the bottom up, you need to create a division of labor, divide tasks through job specialization, set up teams or departments or departmentalization, allocate resources, assign specific tasks, establish procedures, develop an organizational chart, and adjust new realities. And when it comes down to it, kind of everybody in the organization has a job to do, and they're hired in to do that job, and that's what they need to do. So, the principle of organization applied to businesses of all sizes, structuring the business, making appropriate division of labor, using job specialization and departmentalization, establishing procedures, and assigning authority are tasks found in most firms. How do these principles operate at your current or most recent job? I would say, at my current job, like I said, everybody kind of has their own job to do. You focus on the task at hand. If you're asked to, kind of jump off, join another project, do somebody else's work, try to adapt as much as possible. But, just one of those things where you kind of stay in your own lane unless you kind of go asked to go out of it. So often change in organizations is due to evolving business environment. So, just more global competition, and doesn't even have to be global. It can just be, local competition as well. Declining economy, faster technological change and pressure to protect the environment. Customer expectations have always changed. Consumers today want high quality products with fast, friendly service at low cost. So, even as consumers, that's something that we can relate to just because those are all things that we want. So we want something that's going to be, at our hands or at our fingertips at a very quick basis. That's what, a lot of organizations are doing a lot of works with apps where you can just, sign on to an app, do pretty much whatever you want to on there. Same way with like, online interaction. So we definitely live in an interesting time on kind of how everything is changing from an organizational standpoint. And so, kind of going along with that change. So, how much has changed in a decade? So, from 2000 to 2010, so the amount of cell phone usage went from 34% to 89%. Look at the amount of blogs that started from 2000 to 2010. Same way for reality shows, even like the daily email sent. Number of hours spent online per week. The number of daily newspapers has dropped just because not as many newspapers these days. Daily letters mailed, not as many people mailing anything anymore. It's more through email. Number of published books actually went up on that one. So I think that's just due to there's so many opportunities out there for people to publish their own books. iTunes downloads went from 0 to 10 billion, and then percentage of obese Americans 26 to 34%. When you consider kind of everything. When you look on this page, we are kind of getting lazier as a world, just because everything is at our fingertips. So we're not getting up, we're not, getting out of the house, we're not working as much. We're doing pretty much everything from the comfort, of a chair, and I can definitely see why the obesity has gone up. So, what's the office going to look like in 2025? So, workplaces may help workers by providing more wellness services like in-house massages and fitness programs. I think most organizations now pretty much offer some sort of fitness plan, whether they have like on-site gym, or you can get a discount if you go to an off-site gym. Pretty much just anything to kind of keep their employees, happy and healthy. Same way for, through health insurance that you might have through an employer. A lot of that is probably going to offer some sort of discount to join some sort of like health club for that. And then as technology advances, more emphasis could be put on wearable devices and ways to connect remotely. Whether it be Apple Watch, Fitbits. I know those are getting to be a pretty big thing, and that's kind of a cool thing too. That the world we live in, where a lot of these Fitbit challenges that we have within the office. I think those are great team building exercises, and it's also a great way to use technology by staying in shape. And then more focus may be put on individuals' needs, like comfort levels and other elements that increase productivity. A lot of what we're seeing now is just more organizations going from wearing a suit and tie to work every day to where you can wear pretty much anything you want to. Just more than like they will call it business casual, but a lot of these places aren't even doing business casual anymore. So, I mean, if you want to wear jeans and a t-shirt to work every day, I mean, you're probably more than welcome to do that. I know, working at State Farm, they were technically business casual, but I would see people every day who were wearing shorts and flip flops. So it just kind of depended on what department you were working in up there and just kind of what your manager's views were on the overall dress code. But I could wear jeans any day of the week that I wanted to. Now at SEFCU it's a little bit different. We are business casual, I guess, but I mean I have to wear some sort of like khakis or something like that. I don't have to wear a shirt and tie every day, but a lot of the times when I do have like an important meeting or something out of the office, I will, wear a suit and a tie, something along those lines, just because, financial institutions and banking just in general is just a little more old school to where you kind of have to do that. So I'm really interested to see kind of where financial institutions go in the next 15 years as far as dress code goes and comfort levels, just because so many employers are getting away from dressing up every day. So hopefully financial institutions follow suit. So the development of organization, so economies of scale, so just companies reducing their production costs by purchasing raw materials in bulk. Walmart was one of the kind of great examples of this, to where they stepped in from the start. We're buying a lot of products, in bulk and then selling it off, at a discount. And as they started to do it, more companies started to kind of notice it and be like, oh yeah, we can start to do that too. And that's why we're starting to see kind of more of these box stores that are selling things really cheap and kind of getting rid of the mom and pop stores, just because they don't have the availability to buy things in bulk. The average cost of goods decreases as production levels rise, and then mass production of goods led to complexities in organizing businesses. So Fayol's principle of organization, unity of command. There's a hierarchy of authority, division of labor, authority, degree of centralization, a lot of order that goes into it. Continue with him. So characteristics of organizations based on the principles. Organizations in which employees have no more than one boss. Lines of authorities are very clear. Rigid organizations that don't respond to customers very quickly. So we introduced several management principles still follow today. Which of Fayol's principles have you observed? I mean, just in a very traditional setting. I mean, you can kind of see, everybody's rules are very, defined and, very clear, and you just don't kind of go out of your role. We have Max Weber and the organizational theory. So that is just employees just need to do what they're told. In addition to Fayol's principle, Weber emphasized job descriptions, written rules, decisions, guidelines, detailed records, consistent procedures, regulations, policies, staffing promotions based on qualifications. So I mean, he kind of took what Fayol was doing and just kind of upped it one, and was very defined in everything that is there. So I would say, at SEFCU we have, a lot of this, and for the most part, pretty much every organization has this, especially when it comes to written rules, decision guidelines, staffing and promotion based on qualification, consistent procedures. I mean, that's the biggest thing, is like whenever you run into a situation, you just want to be as consistent. That way, if the next situation comes along and it's very similar, you can make a consistent decision based on that. So Max Weber promoted an organizational structure composed of middle managers who implement the orders of the top managers. He believed less educated workers were best managed if supervisors gave them strict rules and regulations to follow and monitor their performance. What industries or businesses today would benefit by using such controls? I mean, I kind of link that to very kind of like a micromanaged type of thing, where you kind of on your weekly staff constantly, making sure they're doing exactly what they're doing. Middle managers, those are the individuals that are probably doing most of the work for the organization, just because they're making sure everybody's kind of doing what they should be doing, and making sure the top managers are getting all the information that they need. So when it comes down to it, a hierarchy, That's just a system in which a person is at the top of the organization and there is ranked or sequential ordering from top to down. So I'm sure you've probably heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like in a psychology course, kind of following the same kind of thing. Chain of command, how do things organize in your organization, the line of authority that moves from the top to bottom. Organizational chart, just a visual device that shows relationships among people and divides the organization's work. It shows who reports to who. So here's a example of an organizational chart. So at the top you have your president, on down to your your managers, A, B, and C, first line supervisors, and then you've got your employees all the way down at the bottom. So pretty much any organization that you probably have access to some sort of organizational chart. So bureaucracy and bureaucratic organizations shows just an organization with many layers of managers who set rules and regulations and oversee all decision. I think that bottom bullet point there. Bureaucracies can annoy customers. I think they annoy employees as well. And I mean, when you look around, government, that's kind of the prime example of bureaucracy, just because there are so many levels. You have to answer to so many different people on it. And it takes forever to get anything done. For centralized and decentralized authority, for centralized, when making a decision, it's maintained at the top level of management at the company headquarters. Decentralized authority is when the decision-making authority is delegated at lower levels for more familiar and local conditions than headquarters management could be. So, if you do have a decentralized authority, that means you probably have offices kind of spread out throughout different states or something like that, and you just kind of basing it on of what is your kind of local rules, what is kind of the local feel, that sort of thing. So some of the advantages and disadvantages for centralized, we've got greater top management control, more efficiency, simpler distribution center, stronger brand, corporate image. Some of the disadvantages of a centralized would be less responsive to customers, less empowerment, interorganizational conflict, lower morale away from headquarters. Um, SEFCU, we're headquartered in Peoria. So being in Springfield, sometimes a lot of the employees in Springfield don't feel like they're a part of the organization as much as if you were working in Peoria, just because we do have the bulk of our organization up there. So I mean, I definitely can relate to something like that. Um, but as far as decentralized goes, better adaptation to customers' wants, more empowerment of workers, faster decision making, higher morale. You're not working, with decentralized, you're not waiting to hear back from top management at the corporate office. You can kind of make your decisions, as you go. With that, though, it has become less efficiency just because you have different managers making different decisions. Complex distribution system, less top management control, and then weakened corporate image just because you're not kind of standing united. I mean, you're kind of all over the place. And so, span of control, just the optimum number of subordinates a manager or supervisor should supervise. So, when work is standardized, broad spans of control are possible. The appropriate span narrows at higher levels of organization. Just, you get into more complex work. You probably don't need to be, managing as many people along with that complex work. The trend today is to reduce middle managers and hire better lower level employees, and then that way they can just relay to a higher level manager. So we're going to talk about the difference between a tall organization and a flat organization. So a tall organization is a structure in which the pyramidal organization chart would be quite tall because of the various levels of management. So a flat organization structure that has few layers of management and a broad span of control. So a tall organization is something to be very bureaucratic. So here's an example of a lower one where you have a owner, manager, and you've just got one level to where you're um, working with one another. So some of the advantages and disadvantages of that. So when it comes to broad expanded control, so when it comes to broad, you got reduced costs, more responsive to customers, faster decision making, more empowerment. Some of the disadvantages. fewer chances for advancement just because you can't, go up as high. Overworked managers, loss of control, less management expertise. And when it comes to narrow, you've got more control to top management, more chances for advancement. It's a higher food chain to where you can go up the ladder a little bit higher. Greater specialization, more people, able to do exactly what they need to do. Closer supervision, and then some of the disadvantages, just less empowerment, higher costs, delayed decision making, and then less responsive to customers. So I would say, between the two, they both have their pros, they both have their cons. If you can kind of find that sweet spot right in the middle, that'd probably be best for everybody. Weighing advantage and disadvantage of departmentalization. So just the dividing of the organization's function in separate units. Workers are grouped by skills and expertise to specialize their skills. So some of the advantage of that: employees develop skills and progress within the department as they master skills. The company can achieve economies of scales. Employees can coordinate work within function, and top management can easily direct activities. Some of the disadvantages of this: departments may not communicate well. Employees may identify with their department's goals rather than the organization's. The company's response to external changes may be slow. People may be trained to take different managerial responsibilities. Instead, they become specialists, and the department members may engage in groupthink and may need to, outside input. So, kind of a good example of departmentalization here is, after the material for footballs has been cut and sewn in the Wilson Sporting Goods factory, it moves onto the lacing department, where workers like this one open up the deflated balls and prepare them for lacing. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of departmentalizing by processes like this one? So I would say, some of the advantages is everybody's going to be very specialized in exactly what you're doing. You have, one individual who's lacing all the time, so that individual is probably going to be very good at lacing. But at the same time, you might have different quality control where, the individual who's lacing might have a higher standard of quality than the individual who was putting the football together previously. So you might get different standards all across the board. Advantages, disadvantage, I would say, kind of as usual, you need to find the sweet spot between the two of them. Hopefully you have pretty constant themes throughout an organization where you're holding yourself to a higher standard and make sure everybody's kind of on board with that. So 4 ways to structure an organization. So you've got line organizations, line and staff organizations, matrix style organizations, and then cross-functional self-management teams, and then we'll go through all of these. So for line organizations, has direct two-way lines of responsibility, authority, and communication running from top to bottom, with all people reporting to only one supervisor. There are no specialists or legal, accounting, human resources, or information departments. Line manager issues orders, enforce discipline, and adjust the organization. And so you kind of, have to be a jack of all trades when it comes to a line organization. I can see, being very overworked on that just because you are wearing kind of everybody's hat. You not don't have really any departments whatsoever. You're just kind of doing whatever you're asked to do. So we've got line and staff organizations. So you got line personnel, which employees who are part of the chain of the command that is responsible for achieving organizational goals, and then you got line personnel who have authority to make policy decisions. And then we've got your staff personnel, which employees who advise and assist line personnel in meeting their goals. Staff personnel includes marketing, research, legal advising, IT, and human resource management. Matrix style organization. So specialists from different parts of the organization are brought together to work on specific projects, but still remain part of the line and staff structure. Emphasis on product development, creativity, special products, rapid communication, interdepartmental teamwork. I think the Matrix one works really well, especially if you do have a lot of projects going on. You can bring in specialists from each department to work on that. You get a lot of different views. You get a lot of diverse kind of cultures coming into it, diverse kind of ideas into it. So the Matrix organization can work really well. So, and here is an example of the matrix. So you've got your president at the top, you've got your vice presidents, and then it's just kind of broken down from there, from your project managers and kind of everything that is broken into it. So I would say at CEFQ, we have kind of a matrix organization where we have a marketing department, we have an accounting department, we have a checking department, anything like that, where everybody kind of does their own thing, but at the same time we all come together in working with bigger projects. So some of the advantages along with that is managers have flexibility in assigning people to projects. You've got creative solutions, and then organizational resources are used efficiently. Some of the disadvantages, it can be costly and complex. Employee may be confused as to where their loyalty belongs. I would say overall, you just need to have your loyalty to the organization as a whole. Good interpersonal skills and cooperative employees are a must, and it may only be a temporary solution to a long-term problem. And we've got cross-functional self-managed teams. These are just groups of employees from different departments who work together on a long-term basis. A way to fix the problem of matrix-style teams is to establish long-lived teams. Teams are empowered to make decisions without management approval. And then going beyond the organizational boundaries, just cross-functional teams work best when the voice of the customer is heard. So just being customer-oriented and worrying about how can you please the customer as best as possible. Teams that include customers, suppliers, and distributors go beyond organizational boundaries, and then government coordinators may assist in sharing market information across national boundaries. So when it comes to building successful teams, some of the things that you want to look at, have a clear purpose and you have clear goals. Recruit ones with correct skills that are going to help out the team. Practice mutual accountability. I mean, everybody within the team needs to be accountable. It's not just up to one or two people. Value other teammates. Make sure everybody is heard. Make sure everybody is understanding of everything. Thank everybody for the role on it, and then focus rules on shift rules when appropriate. Networking. So that's just using communication technology and other means to link organizations, allow them to work together on common objectives. Transparency in virtual organizations. When it comes to real time, the present moment or actual time in which something takes place. I mean, I would say overall networking is very vital to a successful organization, just because you need to communicate within the organization, even if it is a different department. And just, if you can meet with one another in a meeting, kind of talk shop a little bit, kind of figure out kind of what's going on within the different parts of the organization. Those can be definitely good conversations to have. And then also you're just creating that personal relationship with somebody to where if you do know somebody from a different department, then you can kind of reach out to them if you ever have a question. You can work together on different projects and, kind of use them as a resource. Transparency and virtual organizations continued here. So transparency occurs when a company is so open to other companies that the electronic information is shared as if the companies were one virtual corporation, just a temporary network organization made up of replaceable firms that join and leave as needed. We got benchmarking here, just compares an organization's practices, processes, and products against the world's best. If a company can't do it as well as the best, then try to outsource the function. So benchmarking is something that everybody kind of takes a look around their current landscape to see how they can improve on different things. We talked about Walmart being obsessed with Amazon a few chapters ago. Walmart has definitely benchmarked Amazon as being the best when it comes to shipping products to consumers and just their overall supply chain. And now they're trying to match them as best as possible. I definitely think they're catching up to them, but yeah, Amazon just kind of got the jump on everybody to where they're so far ahead of everybody at this point. But they are coming back to the field at this point. Yeah, core competencies here. So those are the functions that an organization can do well or better than any other organization in the world. So I would say, Amazon, their core competency is supply chain management. They're the best in the world at it. You look around some of the other companies, take a look at maybe like Apple. I would say Apple innovation is probably one of their core competencies. They do better than anybody else, and it's not just innovation; it's the simplicity behind their innovation. I mean, they're able to come out with an iPhone every couple of years that doesn't change all that much, but it does change in the correct areas, and they keep improving on it. So maybe even continual improvement you can kind of throw into that core competencies as well. So another example of core competencies, Nike's core competencies are designing and marketing athletic shoes. The company outsources other functions such as manufacturing to other companies that assemble shoes better and cheaper than Nike can do it on its own. So, what are the advantages of focusing on the company's core competencies? What are the disadvantages? I mean, overall, I would say the advantages is you get to focus on what you're doing the best, and you can become even better at it. What are the disadvantages? Is you're not necessarily improving in any other way. So, I mean, Nike could go out, they could start to develop manufacturing, and it'd probably save them money in the long run if they did that instead of outsourcing it. But that means they would have to devote time and resources into doing that. Change. So change is one of those things, like it says here, it's never easy. Employees like to do things the way they've always done it. Anytime somebody says something along the lines of, well, that's the way we've always done it, I hate hearing that phrase. Um, I don't want to be stuck in the past. I want to continue to improve. I want to be, stuck in the future to where we're, getting rid of the old inefficient, facilities, equipment, processes, whatever it might be. Use the internet to get to know your customers, sell directly to them. And then we got digital natives. So those are your young people who have grown up using the internet and social networking. We're starting to see more of those in the workforces these days. Coming fresh out of college, they're used to working with the internet, social networking, just because they grew up using it, and they're probably a lot more familiar than some of the individuals that have been working the organization for a long time. So Amazon uses information stored in databases to reach out to customers. The company emails customers letting them know about music, DVDs, books that they might be based on past purchases. Have you ever received an email like this from Amazon or other companies? What benefits would a database of personal information like past purchases provide Amazon? And then do you think these databases are helpful for both companies and consumers, or are they invasion of privacy? So this is a hot topic for sure whenever it comes to organizations kind of going through individuals' personal information. It's called data mining, where the data is out there based on previous shopping history, whether it be through Amazon or whoever else. Then whenever you're going through online and looking at different websites, whether you're shopping online, say you go to Amazon and you're looking at televisions. And then you go to Best Buy, you're looking at televisions through there. Every time you look at those televisions, there's cookies being placed on your computer and it's kind of picking up on that. So then, say you go to Yahoo as your next one and you see kind of an ad up on the banner saying, oh, TV's super cheap at, some random store that you've never heard of. Well, what that is your computer just going in, looking at your previous browsing history, finding out that you're looking for a TV, and then that random store probably bought ads through Yahoo or Amazon, or Google, somebody like that, and then they're just promoting their product that way. So um, we've probably all received emails from Amazon or other companies that are doing things like this. As far as when it comes to invasion privacy, it's definitely a little bit of invasion of privacy. It just kind of comes down to how much of an invasion of privacy is it? Are you okay with somebody knowing that you're trying to buy a TV, or do you want to have that completely shut down? So that's just one of those things that I think you kind of have to do a little bit of give and take with it. If you're perfectly fine with it, then I mean, no need to concern or have any concerns about it. If you don't want your private browsing information out there, then yeah, it's one of those things. Maybe you should just stay off the internet, because I feel like pretty much everybody knows exactly what you're doing on the internet these days. For restructuring, so that's just the redesigning of an organization that can move more effectively and efficiently to serve its customers. So an inverted organization is an organization that can contact people at the top, and the CEO at the bottom of the organization's chart. The manager's job is to assist and support frontline people, not boss them around. So organizational and corporate culture, widely shared values within an organization that provide unity and cooperation to achieve common goals. Culture is shown in stories, traditions, myths. Some of the best organizational culture emphasize service. Under a formal organization, we have detail lines, responsibility, authority, and position. A very formal system on how everything is slow, bureaucratic. No organization can be effective without formal and informal organizations and an informal organization. So the system that develops spontaneously as employees meet and form cliques, relationships, lines of authority outside the formal organization. The informal organization helps foster camaraderie and teamwork among employees. The informal system is too unstructured and emotional on its own. The informal organization also may be powerful in resisting management directives. So, I mean, everybody's been a part of an informal organization, and that's just, if you're friends with somebody that you work with, that's part of the informal organization. I mean, I think that for the most part is what everybody kind of remembers whenever you remember working someplace. It's just kind of those informal friendships that you created, the bond that you had with somebody, and then that's what makes working someplace fun is if you have a friend there, to work with. So we got group norms. Um, you know, do your job, but don't produce more than the rest of your group. Dress appropriately and keep your space organized. Don't tell off-color jokes or use profanity. Speak up. Respect and help your fellow group members, and then drinking is done off the job, never at work. So I would say, if you follow these, when it comes to informal groups, you'd probably be a pretty good employee. You're probably not going to have too much drama or too much controversy at work. So definitely a good thing that you want to have. If you are doing some of these things, then maybe you want to kind of reevaluate and maybe see that it might not be the most beneficial thing for your career going in the long run. So that's all I've got for chapter 8. We will see you next time in chapter 9.